All right, welcome to this webinar presented by the Common Education Data Standards about Education Master Data Management and the CEDS Align Tool. My name is Dwayne Brown and I'm the Deputy Director on the CEDS Initiative. We will be recording this webinar and we'll make it available on our community site, ceds.grad360.org. The format for this webinar's presentation, all participants are muted for the webinar. If you do have any questions as we go along, please feel free to put those into the Q&A or in the chat box, and I will do my best to monitor that during the presentation, but we'll definitely cover any questions I miss at the end of the presentation. So in this webinar, we're taking a look at Education Master Data Management and how CEDS and the free CEDS Align Tool can help organizations manage their education data. To start out, we have a couple of definitions from Wikipedia about master data management. Master data management is a comprehensive method of enabling an enterprise to link all of its critical data to one file called a master file that provides a common point of reference. When properly done, master data management streamlines data sharing among personnel and departments. In this first definition, I want to point out that it has a single master file. Another way to put this would be a data dictionary containing all relevant elements and definitions that can be referred to by anyone in or out of the agency as the main source of information. Also, that master data management streamlines data sharing. It saves time and it saves money. Continuing on in Wikipedia, at its core, master data management can be viewed as a discipline for specialized quality improvement defined by the policies and procedures put in place by a data governance organization. The ultimate goal being to provide the end user community with a trusted single version of the truth from which to base decisions. So you have a trusted single version of the truth. The source data and the decisions are based off of these sources of data. So basically, in my own words, provide a single source of quality data that is as true as possible. And I spent over 8 years working with data at the State Department of Education in Oklahoma. So we don't say true, it's as true as possible in a language understood by all for the purpose of making an informed decision. One source that is quality and true and is understood, and it's all about making decisions. After all, what are we doing with the data anyway? In theory, it's basically for decision making. Report the data to the state so they can decide how much money to pay you. Report the data to the federal government so they can decide how much money to pay you. Report it for accountability purposes so they can decide how much not to pay you. Only kidding, sort of. Decisions for how to improve programs. We have decisions for which programs are needed, which programs are not needed, decisions on where to build a school, how do we decide on improving instruction, how do we decide to intervene, when to intervene, how to intervene. It's all about decisions. The data and the data that's collected and it's used is all about decisions of wanting to make sure the data is correct, that it's true, and that it's working on data. And I can remember a few years back when we had a data researcher come to work for the State Department of Education. She was actually housed in the office right next to mine and was immediately tasked with digging into the data with several questions to be answered. So she came over to me and asked, where was the data located? And did we have a data dictionary that explained all of the elements, their definitions, their location, the option sets, what the single source of truth was, when there were multiple sources of the same data, so that she could go through that document, she could find the data she needed, and she could start answering the questions that were being asked. Well, we had nothing. I knew where the data was. I knew which data to use and not to use and how to use it. I knew what the data meant, but I basically had no way to communicate this information to her other than me talking directly to her and explaining it. So a lot of my time was spent showing her, here's where the data is located, here's what they mean, here's the one you should use over this one, use this element instead of this one, use this location instead of this one. And I did this over and over again for her, as well as other researchers, other program offices, for data sharing agreements we had, for state assessments, for various different, anytime the data was used, I had to go in and specify when, what, where, which data to use. So a lot of resource time was spent, and all because we did not have a master data dictionary. And I was not alone in conveying information like that. We did not have a data dictionary for really any of the data in the State Department. So What was that phrase again in the definition? It streamlines data sharing among personnel and departments. Yes. Producing a master data dictionary through master data management provides everyone who touches the data with a single location to go to. It provides them with what they're looking for. It saves time, resources, and it saves potential headaches from sharing or releasing the wrong data, which can happen from time to time as well when there are multiple sources of the same data. So let's start thinking about the data. You have requests for data, the type of data you collect and store. There's many different systems that contain data. The many different systems that sometimes contain the same data collected multiple times by different program offices or different areas or different groups for different purposes, and yet they have the same elements and definitions. So determining which one is a single source of truth can be difficult at times. It's a single source of truth for this program office, but there's another program office that may collect the exact same data, and it's the single source of truth for them. Yet when the information goes out, it appears as though you have conflicting information because you have two single sources of truth. So is there a single source of truth? What if someone, such as in my example with the internal researcher, needed to know where various data elements were housed, what their definitions were, and which data to use and when? Would you be able to provide that master data dictionary to them? So why is the central standard needed in your organization? Do you have different vocabularies that exist inside of your own agency? Somebody says it one way, somebody else says it a different way. Do you have multiple versions of the same or similar data? And could you name every one of those right now? And if you can't, and maybe missing them all, data dictionary. Are open records, legislative, media requests all handled in a consistent way with a standard set of vocabulary for each element that's provided back out as a single source of truth? So if somebody fills an open record request from one office and they put element names on there, would a different office fill the same open records request or a different open records request, but their element names would be slightly different? Are you using consistent element names when information goes out? Is there a lot of time spent comparing definitions of elements when setting up data sharing agreements with other agencies or when you're integrating data internally? Have you established program areas that own which data elements and the definitions for your agency? At the state level, if you're a state agency, would your LEAs say they receive a consistent definition every time from program areas about elements for data collection? If they call one program office, are they going to get a certain definition? If they call a different program office, are they going to get the exact same definition, or would they get something slightly different? So even not just going from LEAs to states, what would schools say about an LEA, or colleges or universities about the post-secondary or higher education? What would career techs say about their state career tech office? And then even what would, actually this is backwards, what would states say to the feds? Are we providing a consistent picture of the elements and the definitions of those elements that are needed for data collections? And then can researchers, such as in my example, internal and external to your agency, begin with a consistent list of elements and definitions that align to your systems for the data they need to conduct the analysis work? So, little humor. There are basically two kinds of people in education master data management. You have those who have good education master data management, and you have those who have bad education master data management. And then there's those that have quality education master data management, poor quality. There are those who are very skilled at the game of table tennis. There are those who are average at the game of ping pong, those who are achieving high levels of master data management, and those underperforming in the area of master data management education. So yes, I know there are 8 here instead of 2, and table tennis and ping pong have absolutely nothing to do with it at all. But this is how education master data management tends to be, right? Most of these are very similar. Good master data management and bad master data management. But we all define it in slightly different terms, and we use just a little bit of a different vocabulary, and occasionally we have a very different vocabulary, such as in the case of table tennis and ping pong. So in order to do master data management, what if we were to take these 8 definitions and determine a single source of truth that would arrive at 2 kinds of people in education master data management? We would basically need to document that. We would need to have discussions with those individuals whose definitions differ slightly from ours. We would need to determine a common definition that we could use. Is it going to be good, bad? Is it going to be quality and poor quality? Is it going to be achieving high level or underperforming? So we would have to go through that process to determine what is going to be our common definition and our common element for determining the two individuals for education master data management. And then we, of course, would really have to have a conversation with the program area or office or whatever who defines it as table tennis and ping pong to basically see if we have a data quality issue here, or do we potentially have a completely different set of source data that should not be included here at all when we're discussing this particular thing. So going through and basically doing that same process, but only with real elements and real definitions and determining what do we really mean and how do we really want to say this and what is the vocabulary that we really want to use when going out there. Looking at some real-world examples, not telling you where I found them, not where I used to work, but I do have a history of working directly with education data. So let's just take a look at state assessments. Students do take state assessments in various subjects. These are typically pre-coded, and we used to call it post-coded, even to make sure that the indicator information is on there about the students in relation to their assessments and their assessment results. So anyone who takes a test has certain indicators associated with them, such as an IEP, Students on Individualized Education Plan, ELL, or English Language Learner, and is the student a migrant. And in some state systems, the state assessments are stored and information is collected about these indicators separate of other systems that may contain similar or the exact same data about the indicators. There could be three other systems that are considered the source for the IEP, the ELL, and the migrant data, such as the special education system, a system with the LEP or limited English proficient assessment data, or a student information system that maybe houses that data. And then you also have the migrant system that states have. So do these systems talk to the assessment system or to provide the indicator information, or is it indicated separately on the assessment itself and stored separately, creating separate systems of collections of the exact same data? And when you have those separate systems of collections, how do you determine which one's the source data and when, and what do you do if they disagree? So first possibility, we have a student who is, and there's lots of possibilities here where things, when you have multiple different systems, where things could go awry. We have a student who's indicated on IEP on the test, but there's no record for the student in special education system. So I have never seen this before, but actually, yes, I have. So somebody marked this kid, yes, he's on an IEP. That goes on the state assessment. He's really not on an IEP. It was a mistake. The source system doesn't have any way to verify that, but you're basically going to report two different sets of numbers now for the number of kids who are on an IEP and those who took state assessments who are on an IEP. Another possibility could be the same as the first, where the student is indicated as ELL, but is not ELL or limited English proficient. But with this, we also have a question of just vocabulary in general. I know when I first started understanding education data many years back, I heard ELL, English Language Learner, and I also heard LEP, Limited English Proficient. I didn't know the two of these things were the same thing. So if you can think, while we may be entirely familiar with these terms, there may be others who have to conduct research, or the public who will request information from the assessment office, and then somebody else who will separately collect information from the LEP office, and they have no idea that these are in fact indicating very similar, the same things, having the same definitions and the same purpose. So having that similar vocabulary in our master data management. And then finally, we have a migrant system that stores migrant students. But on the assessment, we have LEAs who mistakenly mark their immigrant students with the migrant flag because it's really just a matter of two letters. If you take the IM off of immigrant, you have migrant. And so they must be very similar to being the exact same thing. And so you have that. But that's not really true. And so because the systems are separate, the state reports one number about migrants to ED related to assessments, and then the migrant office reports a different number about migrants to ED related to the migrant population in general. And then the migrant population on the assessments ends up being much higher than what would be expected, which is basically you end up seeing there's a lack of master data management in determining sources and in bringing sources together and which sources would be the best. So, where do we begin to solve this? We have to solve these problems if we have them. If you're a state that doesn't have those or an agency, great, good for you. But if you have master data management things that you need to work on, how do we begin to solve it? We need the data that's collected, that's stored, and that's used We need to document it in a central repository so that we know what we have. And the data elements and the definitions and the option sets need to be aligned to a predetermined common standard so that we can compare the various different collections and data stores for where there are multiple versions of the truth. So we've got to document all of it. Here's all the systems. Here's all the data. Here's all the elements and their definitions. And then let's take that and let's align that to a standard so that we can compare across. So if you have LEP in one system and ELL in another, you have to decide, is it going to be LEP or is it going to be ELL? What's the common standard that we want to align to? So when we look at these, we know we have the same thing. CEDS offers a free online tool that provides a location where your data dictionary, your elements, your definitions, your option sets can be stored along with metadata about those elements such as the database and the table names. And then with CEDS, you also have a common standard, a common vocabulary that contains definitions and option sets to align to. And with the Align tool, you can then compare the various different collections that you have and the data stores with each other to come up with a single source of truth. What is the single source of truth we're going to use? Which is the element we're going to use? We collect this 3 different times. We want to make sure there's consistency here. Or how we go about collecting it 3 different times but ensuring that data is still accurate. Another benefit provided by CEDS is the actual definitions themselves. You may have elements that you collect, but you have not defined them, or you have not fully defined them for others. So that researcher, again, that comes into my office, what does this element mean? Well, let me try to explain it to you. No, let me take you to a place that has the actual definition. Let me give you a good, consistent, solid definition about that. So many of the elements you collect are going to be the same or very similar to CEDS, and CEDS can help you define those elements in your own system. Also on CEDS, you can see not only the CEDS definition, but you can see how other agencies or organizations have defined those same or similar elements, providing you with a wealth of definitions to start with to organize your data if you don't yet have definitions determined for the elements that you're collecting. And to be sure you are getting a good standard, there is no shortage of contributors to CEDS. The Common Education Data Standards does not seek to invent new definitions and elements. Where they already exist in other standards bodies, CEDS goes out and finds those sources and uses their elements and their definitions and their option sets and allows them to be the source of that and brings it in to the CEDS standard so that we have a common set of understanding. So where a common element or definition does not exist, there's no source for this. We need to determine a common definition. CEDS then works with many different stakeholders and many different standards bodies to determine the common element name and definition that can then be used by everyone. At the CEDS website, users can search for various element names to see complete and thorough definitions. For our example related to ELL and LEP, the CEDS element is Limited English Proficiency Status, with a thorough definition that explains in detail what it means to be indicated with a yes for limited English proficiency status. A researcher or public or somebody new to the data would be able to read through this definition to understand what this indicator is referencing about the student. So, where do you begin education mastery data management? It begins with documenting the data, elements, the definitions, and the option sets you have in your various systems. And that can be done for free using the CEDS Align tool, which allows you to import your data from an Excel spreadsheet, or you can type them in one element at a time. It provides you with the ability to align your data to the CEDS elements, which then allows you to compare your elements with others in different data dictionaries, or in your same agency, or even with other agencies who have data dictionaries in CEDS and even other states. And it provides reports that allow you to analyze your data elements and help you determine what's going to be the source data. The CEDS Align tool is located under Tools on the CEDS website. To save your data dictionaries, which we call maps in CEDS, you need an account, which you can create from the home page. There is no cost for creating the account. It simply lets you save your maps, and then you come back at a later time to work on them some more. So it allows us to associate that map with an individual who has a login so they can go back and forth, save maps, come back, work on them, change them, delete them, add new ones. It allows you to have that ability and that functionality. Inside of Align, You can create or manage your already created maps. There are also several resources that can assist you in using the CEDS Align tool. There's tutorials, there's documents, there's a mapping toolkit that can get you started in actually mapping your data. And now inside the CEDS Align tool, as you go to create a map, you can provide your map with a distinctive name so that you know what this data in this map is referring to specifically. So if you have multiple systems or multiple collections, you can name this map however you want, which would be the best way for you to actually be able to refer back to it. You can also indicate the state where the map applies. This is very helpful if you choose to share your map with others so they can see how you have defined your data and the type of data you collect. So such as researchers or the public or even your own internal program staff, this provides a filter so they can filter down to a particular state when using the map. And then they can also filter further down by domain. CEDS is not just a K-12 standard, but it contains elements for early childhood, post-secondary, career tech, and workforce, all related to education data. So when working with other agencies in situations like data sharing agreements, both agencies having their information in CEDS and aligned to CEDS streamlines the sharing of data because the mapping of one element to another is already done through CEDS. On the next page, you can add even more filter information and specific details about your map to help you organize your data. Are you a state agency, education agency? Are you a local education agency? What's the name of the agency? And providing yourself or others will help to see the map with a description. So the description allows you, and they're looking for a map, maybe in your internal program offices are looking for something particular. When they're trying to find the map they're supposed to be looking at or the information, they'll see the affiliation name, which is your name. So they go to the state, they go to the domain, they can see the affiliation name, and they can see the description of the map, and they can know exactly what they're looking at. When the map is finally created, you have the main screen here, which is for managing all of the details about the map. From the map administration, you can edit the map information, as we've already discussed previously. You can also manage your user access, which means you can add other users to your map to assist you in filling in the details. You have complete control over the management of that. So you can add users, you can remove users, and you can give them various different levels of access to the map so they can see and help you. If you're coordinating a project, for instance, of master data management from a governance perspective, you can act as the map administrator on all of the maps, and you can provide access to certain individuals in your agency to only certain maps to do the work of creating their specific data dictionaries. And then from this location, you can also archive your map, which is basically a soft delete, and you can make a copy of it to make another identical map for other purposes. Data elements is where you would work with the actual data elements themselves from your data dictionary and where you would then align them to the common standard. You can do this by uploading an Excel spreadsheet of your elements and definitions from the Upload Data Dictionary section, or you can key them in one at a time from the Align Elements section, which is also the location where you can choose the CEDS element that best fits the definition of your element. Validate consistency lets you see where you may have entered the same element twice in your data dictionary by showing common element names and common element IDs, and it would also help you maybe see where you have multiple sources of the same information inside of your data dictionary or inside of your system. And using the map provides you with access to various different reports about the data inside of your map and your alignment to CEDS. It's also a location where you can share your map when it's ready so others can see the element names, the definitions, the systems, the databases, the tables. After a map has been shared, a unique URL is assigned to that specific map, which can then be provided to researchers, program areas, individuals making open record requests, and many others. No longer do you need to be the go-to person for understanding the data and where all of it's located. You can simply point the individuals to a master data dictionary for your agency that lets them know what the elements are, what their definitions are, what their option sets are, and where they're located in your system. We'll discuss the Apply My Connect at the end, which is another great feature of sharing your map. The report section gives you various different reports that make it easier to manage your data. Your map itself contains several important pieces of information about each element, such as the system name, the database name, the table name, of course the name of the element, an identifier for the element, the definition of the element, data type, length, and even a section for comments that you can put in there, specific things that you may want to put about it. It also contains a location for you to enter all of the option sets. And what's great as well is that the CEDS community, the entire application is CEDS community driven, and there is no cost to use the product. And over the last year, several stakeholders who use the Align tool have requested additional fields to be placed into the tool. And we are adding those in, such as like data steward, reference information related to legislation, indicators related to whether or not it's conditional, mandatory, or optional. These are just some of the enhancements. Imagine having a tool like this in your agency and wanting an enhancement to it. What would the cost be? CEDS is funded by the Department of Education as a resource to anyone managing education data. And since it's community driven, we are always open to your input and we make enhancements accordingly. So basically you drive the product to meet your needs and we make the changes accordingly. Once your elements have been entered, they appear at the top. And then down below, once you've aligned, is the CEDS element that you've chosen to align to. And the purpose of aligning, by aligning, you can now run reports that allow you to see your map and another map in or out of your agency and the element alignment using the CEDS element as the bridge or the translation piece. So you can see here how EdFi has an element name for limited English proficiency. They call it limited English proficiency descriptor short description. That's the element that exists inside of their system. You can also see here the data dictionary demo map, which is the map I have, has the element name student personal ELL or English language learner. The data dictionary, both the EdFi map and the data dictionary demo map have selected CEDS as the CEDS element limited English proficiency status that we talked about earlier. They both align their element to that particular element. So CEDS has now provided the crosswalk from one map to the other by creating a map for each of your internal systems in CEDS, and by aligning to CEDS, you can run this comparison report to see where you may have multiple sources of the same truth, which will help you to create a master data dictionary for your agency. So in the example we had earlier, we had LEP from one office and we had ELL from another. If both of those offices were to document their data in Align, and both of them were to align to the standard of CEDS, they would both have aligned to limited English proficiency status. And when the report was run, you would then see the crosswalk and you would know that the assessment office collects data related to limited English proficiency status, and you would know that the LEP office obviously collects data related to limited English proficiency status. And then you would know when we're doing master data management, we need to make sure that we consider the source system. We need to make sure that we consider how we can set up systems so that we can make sure we're reporting the truth or true information about both of those, and that we maybe have validations in place that allow us to ensure consistency across the numbers of what's going out. So allows you to have the standard, using the standard as the crosswalk or the translation piece. Having that master data dictionary created and shared through CEDS allows you to provide it to key groups of individuals who would normally have to sit down with those who have knowledge of the data systems, consuming their time and resources because it wasn't documented. Just like I had to do with the researcher with other offices, I had to sit down, I had to explain, and I had to explain multiple times. Here's the data, here's where you would use it, here's when you wouldn't use it. It wasn't documented in a location. Now by documenting and providing it out, there's access and there's greater understanding from institutions who report to you, media and legislators who can now see what is collected and can understand it from your own vocabulary and in association with the common vocabulary. You have those who conduct open records requests, can know the right vocabulary to use when requesting data. Researchers can identify the elements they need and provide you with the systems and the tables and the columns the data comes directly from. And if they are internal to the agency and have access, as the one did who was in my office, they can immediately begin working with the data, having confidence they're selecting the right data based on the definition in the right location, based on the database and table listings inside of that master data dictionary that you produce. And then other agencies with whom you engage in data sharing, they can align their data dictionaries to CEDS, and that allows to have easier sharing of data. Anywhere you want your data dictionary to be provided, you can simply put the URL. This allows you then also to update the website that you may have internally by simply providing the URL out. Then whenever you need to make changes, you don't need to change the URL. You don't need to upload a new document or a new data dictionary to your website. You can just go into CEDS. You can make the modifications internally inside of your map, make your updates, make your changes. The URL doesn't change. And so the updated information, once you've completed and saved that information, is now updated also for whoever clicks on that URL. They would then also see the updated information. So it contains the link, and you can update directly on the CEDS website. The CEDS suite of tools that contains the tool we talked about today, which was Align, they not only work individually, but they also work in concert with each other. Individuals can use the CEDS Connect tool and to ask questions. So if you remember, master data management is all about decisions, and decisions are made when questions are asked and data provides the answer. The CEDS Collect tool is basically that repository of questions. Researchers put things in there. Department of Education federally puts things in there. Other states put items inside of there. And so it's a repository of questions and answers, and how to get to those answers, the elements you would use. CEDS Connect allows you to ask the question, identify the CEDS elements needed to answer those questions. Then the My Connect tool we mentioned earlier allows you to apply those connections to your CEDS Align map. And then that can give you a report of the elements in CEDS, and because you have an Align map, your own elements, your own element names and locations in your systems that would be used to answer those particular research questions. And all of these, again, are free resources available to you, and updates to the products are based on your inputs and your needs. CEDS is available to help you effectively manage your education data. At this point, I'll answer any questions you have at this time. Just put those into the chat box or into the Q&A if you do have any. And then even after the webinar is over, you can still contact us at ceds.ed.gov and provide comments or ask questions or suggest enhancements for the tools and the standard. We monitor that comment section where it says contact us there with the arrow. We monitor that daily. In addition to the resources that already exist to teach you how to use the tools, we can also provide individualized training for your agency or organization. So if you're interested, just let us know. We can conduct a training webinar for you specifically, and then also even depending on your location, we may be able to come out on site and provide training, again, at no cost to your agency or organization to assist you in completing master data management. And we'll go to the final screen here, which contains the contact information. Feel free to contact us anytime. You can also reach out to me directly if you are interested. My email address is located there. And not seeing that we have any questions being asked, I will go ahead and conclude the webinar, and I would like to thank everyone for attending. We do have one question just popped in. Can an education vendor use these tools? Absolutely. Anyone can use the tools. Anyone related to data can go in and take advantage of the tools. So state agencies, organizations, vendors, anyone is free to take advantage and use any of the CEDS tools. Any other questions we have? Not seeing any coming through presently. I want to thank everybody for attending, and have a great day.